In the winter of 2010, I was working a part-time job as a cashier at a small, rundown gas station located on the outskirts of town. It was one of those places that most folks avoided, except when they had no other choice. I was a college student trying to make some extra cash, and the night shift suited my class schedule. The gas station was a relic of the past. Dimly lit, it had a constant low hum from the flickering fluorescent lights. I had heard rumors about the place, tales of late-night robberies and odd occurrences. My coworkers warned me not to take the night shift alone, but I brushed off their superstitious stories as nonsense. My first night alone at the gas station was a chilling experience. The wind howled outside, and the tapping of tree branches against the windows sounded like ghostly whispers. As I sat behind the counter, the hours crawled by and my unease grew. Around midnight, a man entered the store. He was tall and wore a tattered coat, his face obscured by a thick scarf. He seemed agitated, constantly glancing over his shoulder. His eyes met mine briefly before he made his way to the back corner of the store. I watched as he paced back and forth in the cramped aisle, his movements erratic and unsettling. Something about him sent shivers down my spine. Customers came and went, but this man remained, lost in his strange world. A little past 2 a.m., he approached the counter, his eyes wide and wild. He spoke in a hushed, frantic tone. "You have to help me. They're following me and I don't know what to do." I tried to keep my composure, asking him what was wrong, but his response left me even more unnerved. He muttered something about shadowy figures and whispered conspiracies. I couldn't make sense of it. Just then, a group of men entered the store. They were dressed in dark suits, and their expressions were stern. Without a word, they approached the man, who instantly fell silent. They exchanged a few words in low voices before grabbing him and dragging him out of the store. As they left, the leader of the group turned to me and said, "Forget what you saw here tonight or you'll regret it." My heart raced as I nodded in compliance. The men left as quickly as they had arrived, and I was once again alone in the eerie silence of the gas station. The rest of the night passed without further incident, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I had stumbled into something far more sinister than I had ever imagined. In the days following the strange encounter with the mysterious man at the gas station, I couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister lurked in the shadows of our small town. The eerie incident continued to haunt my thoughts, and I decided to dig deeper into the enigmatic events of that fateful night. I began by asking my coworkers if they had seen anything unusual at the gas station recently. Most of them claimed ignorance, but one of the older employees, a grizzled man named Jerry, leaned in closer and whispered, "You've seen them too, haven't you?" My heart raced. Jerry went on to explain that the gas station had been a hotspot for a series of bizarre occurrences over the years, and many had witnessed unsettling events. He revealed stories of mysterious customers who appeared and disappeared without a trace, as well as shadowy figures lurking in the woods behind the station. The more I listened, the more I realized that my experience was not an isolated incident. It was part of a much larger and inexplicable pattern. I decided to visit the local library to research the history of the gas station and the surrounding area. There I stumbled upon a forgotten article from the early 80s. It chronicled a bizarre incident at the gas station, eerily similar to the events of that night. A man, described as disheveled and paranoid, had entered the store, speaking of shadowy figures and dark conspiracies. Moments later, he had been forcibly removed by an unidentified group. The article was filled with cryptic language and vague allusions. I realized that these eerie occurrences had been going on for decades, hidden away from the public eye. The mystery only deepened, and I couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling that the gas station was more than it seemed. In the following weeks, I continued my investigation, searching for any clues or connections. The townspeople spoke in hushed tones about the gas station's dark history, but nobody dared to delve too deeply. The more I uncovered, the more dangerous it seemed. It was as if the town was collectively pretending these things didn't happen. ignoring the sinister underbelly lurking beneath the surface. The final piece of the puzzle came when I uncovered a collection of handwritten notes in the library's archives. These notes had been penned by a previous gas station employee who had conducted his own investigation into the bizarre events. His writings were filled with paranoia and desperation, detailing how the gas station was a focal point for a shadowy organization. In one chilling entry, the employee described the appearance of a new customer, a man who was eerily identical to the one I had encountered. He rambled about hidden truths, a mysterious conspiracy, and the need to reveal the town's secrets to the world. The writer's words grew increasingly frantic as he detailed his surveillance efforts and his belief that dark forces were watching him. As I read through the final entries, it became clear that the author had spiraled into madness. He had become obsessed with exposing the sinister presence that lurked behind the gas station, and his notes ended abruptly, mid-sentence. Armed with this newfound knowledge, I decided to confront the gas station's enigmatic secrets. I returned to the scene of my unsettling encounter, not as an employee, but as an investigator determined to unravel the truth. Late one night, I staked out the gas station, watching and waiting for any sign of the peculiar man. Hours passed, and I had almost given up hope when I saw him emerge from the shadows, his eyes filled with a manic intensity. I knew this was my chance. I cautiously approached the man, introducing myself and inquiring about his cryptic comments and the gas station's disturbing history. He hesitated at first, but as I shared my own experiences, he began to open up. The man revealed that he was once an employee of the gas station, just like the author of the handwritten notes. He had uncovered a dark conspiracy that had roots in the town's past, a conspiracy involving shadowy figures and a malevolent force that thrived on secrecy. He had been trying to expose the truth, to break free from the gas station's sinister grasp. As we delved deeper into the mysteries of the gas station, the man confided in me that the shadowy organization was aware of his efforts and he was being hunted. His fear was palpable, but he was resolved to unveil the hidden horrors lurking in our town. We spent days poring over documents, gathering evidence, and preparing to confront the malevolent force that held the gas station in its grasp. As the final confrontation approached, I couldn't help but wonder whether we were courting disaster or about to reveal a truth that had been hidden for generations. Our journey had led us to a chilling revelation, one that had been concealed beneath layers of deception and darkness. Now, armed with the knowledge of the gas station's haunted history and a relentless determination, we stood on the precipice of a confrontation that would shatter the fragile peace of our small town. As we ventured forth to confront the unknown, we prayed that our pursuit of the truth would not seal our fate in the sinister shadows of the gas station. So, my friends and I had embarked on a road trip and found ourselves low on gas in an unfamiliar area. The digital display on the car's dashboard ominously blinked, "low fuel," and the gas station we had pulled into was, in a word, unsettling. I couldn't help but feel a creeping unease as I glanced around at the flickering neon lights that barely illuminated the area. The gas station stood alone, isolated and shrouded in an eerie silence that seemed unnatural. In the dead of night, with no other businesses in sight, it appeared as a foreboding monument to desolation. It was as though time itself had forgotten this place. The once bright signage had faded, its fluorescent tubes flickering as they strained to pierce the surrounding darkness. I hesitated to leave the comfort of our car, but knew we had no choice. We had to refuel to continue our journey. Gathering my courage, I stepped out onto the cold pavement. The air was thick with an unsettling stillness, the type that makes you feel as though the world is holding its breath. I reached for the fuel nozzle and began the refueling process. As the gas flowed into the car, I became aware of a low, resonant hum, almost inaudible but unmistakable. It was a noise I couldn't quite place, like the distant vibrations of an unseen generator. Glancing around, I spotted an old payphone booth a short distance away, shrouded in shadows. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to investigate the source of the mysterious hum. I walked over to the payphone, its rusted shell standing as a relic of a bygone era. To my surprise, the phone's rotary dial spun slowly, as though moved by an invisible hand. As I watched, mesmerized, the dial clicked into place on a number, 911. It was as if some phantom hand had deliberately called for emergency assistance. My heart raced, and I glanced around, half expecting to find someone playing a sinister prank on us. Just then, a chilling gust of wind swept through the area, extinguishing the dim neon lights. Darkness swallowed the gas station, and I was plunged into a realm of absolute blackness. Panic welled up inside me, and I fumbled for my phone to use its flashlight. As the light pierced the gloom, my blood ran cold. There, right before me, was the unmistakable figure of a man, his face obscured by the hood of a tattered jacket. He stood as still as a statue, and in his hand he clutched a knife, its blade glinting malevolently in my flashlight's beam. I stumbled back, horror coursing through my veins. The sudden darkness and the appearance of this menacing stranger had transformed a simple pit stop into a waking nightmare. I knew we had to get out of there, away from this forsaken gas station and the enigmatic figure who seemed to have sprung from the very shadows. I rushed back to my friends who were anxiously awaiting my return and explained the grim situation. We abandoned the refueling process, jumped into the car, and sped away from that accursed gas station, leaving behind the eerie hum and the chilling apparition that had materialized in the night. To this day, I cannot explain what we had encountered at that forsaken place. All I know is that something inexplicable occurred at that gas station, something that forever left an indelible mark on my memory. It was a night that shook our belief in the rationale, a night that whispered of sinister secrets lurking in the darkness of a seemingly ordinary world. And as we left the gas station far behind, I couldn't help but wonder about the nightmarish encounters that may still unfold in the shadows of gas stations along desolate highways. The sinister truth was out there, hidden in plain sight, awaiting those who dared to tread where others feared to wander. I've worked the graveyard shift at a gas station for nearly 2 years. Most nights it's uneventful. Customers come and go, buying their late-night snacks, fueling up and continuing on their way. But one night, a particularly eerie incident unfolded that still haunts my dreams. It was an exceptionally quiet Tuesday night. The air was crisp, and the lone streetlight hummed with a monotonous drone. I was stationed behind the counter, engrossed in a book, occasionally glancing up to check for customers. I was the only employee on duty, as my coworker had called in sick. Around 2 a.m., a pair of headlights pierced through the darkness, announcing the arrival of a dilapidated old pickup truck. As it pulled up to the fuel pumps, I noted the rusty paint and weathered appearance of the vehicle. An eerie feeling washed over me, but I chalked it up to the lateness of the hour and my solitude. A tall, lanky man stepped out of the truck and approached the counter. He was adorned in a tattered jacket and had unkempt, greasy hair that framed a gaunt face. His eyes appeared hollow, devoid of any spark of life, and they never met mine. Without a word, the man placed a crumpled bill on the counter and gestured toward the gas pump. I activated the pump and watched as the numbers ticked away on the screen. The pump clicked off, indicating the tank was full, and I went about the routine of processing his payment. The man's silence was unsettling, but I reasoned that some customers preferred it that way. I handed him his change, and he reached out to accept it, his hand trembling as if he were possessed by a hidden fear. That's when I noticed his fingers. They were stained with dirt, and upon closer inspection, what appeared to be dried blood. An unnerving sensation washed over me, and I could feel my pulse quicken. The man left the store without a word, and I watched him retreat to his truck. But before he drove off, he cast one final, chilling glance back at the gas station. As the taillights of the old truck disappeared into the night, I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that had settled upon me. I knew I had to contact the authorities. There was something deeply wrong with that man, something that filled me with foreboding. Later, I learned that the police had stopped the man a few miles down the road. They found a blood-soaked knife in his truck and evidence linking him to a recent unsolved murder. My heart sank as I realized that had I not called the police, he might have continued his killing spree that night. To this day, I can't help but wonder what horrors might have unfolded if that man had been allowed to roam the night unchecked. My encounter at the gas station, once a mundane part of my nightly routine, became a stark reminder of the darkness that can creep into the most ordinary places during the dead of night.